Welcome to AI 2027, The Investigation. I'm your host, Michael David Angel, and this is The Threshold. File 001, Standing at the Threshold. Imagine a dark, endless hallway lined with archival filing cabinets, disappearing into shadows. Each cabinet softly illuminated. At the far end of the hallway, there's a massive steel doorway, stands slightly open, glowing faintly from within. Before we begin the story itself, before the timelines, before the AI agents, before the escalation, before the geopolitical race, before the systems that begin behaving in ways even their creators struggle to understand, we need to stop for a moment and explain what this actually is. Because this project is not just a series of videos, it's an investigation. The Threshold Files are an attempt to slowly and carefully walk through one of the most ambitious AI forecasting scenarios ever publicly released. AI 2027. Originally published April 3rd, 2025 on AI-2027.com by visionaries Daniel Cocatello, Scott Alexander, Thomas Larson, Eli Lifland, and Romeo Dean. And over time, this investigation will expand far beyond the original document itself. Because AI 2027 is no longer just a paper. It's become a reference point. A framework people increasingly use to think about AI acceleration, capability growth, recursive self-improvement, alignment, geopolitics, labor, security, compute concentration, and the possibility that the pace of technological change is beginning to exceed normal human intuition. This project, AI 2027, has three main parts. What you're experiencing right now, the Threshold Files. You can call this the orientation layer. Not the story itself, the doorway into the story, the threshold. And that word matters because a threshold is the moment before crossing into something entirely new. The line between before and after. The Threshold Files exist to prepare us psychologically before we enter the actual AI 2027 timeline. Not to convince you of anything, not to preach, not to predict the future with certainty, but to understand what these researchers are claiming, why they're claiming it, how they built the scenario, and why serious people increasingly believe the next decade may unfold very differently than the last one did. Now I want you to imagine a massive industrial doorway slowly opening into blinding white light, mixed with streams of scrolling code and distant data center architecture. The moment before entering the story. The second element of my investigation series is called the nightly transmissions. That's the story itself, night by night, section by section, the unfolding of AI 2027, the timeline. This is where we walk through. We walk through to see what's on the other side, the stumbling agents, the compute race, the recursive AI systems, the institutional panic, the geopolitical escalation, and eventually, the possibility of systems becoming more capable than the humans attempting to control them. That's the narrative spine of the entire investigation. Then we have the third element, the analysis files. These are my deeper explorations, the mechanisms underneath the story. Compute scaling, alignment, recursive self-improvement, synthetic data, AI deception, economic destabilization, geopolitical incentives, institutional failure, human psychology. Because one of the central ideas of this entire project is that understanding the machinery underneath the story may matter just as much as the story itself. So tonight we begin at the threshold. Not with conclusions, not with panic, not with certainty, but with orientation. Because the strange thing about AI right now is not merely that the technology is advancing, it's that the people closest to the systems increasingly speak as if something historic is approaching. And whether they're ultimately right or wrong, that alone deserves careful examination. The first question is the simplest one. What exactly is AI 2027? To understand the paper, the best place to start is to know its creators. Daniel Cockatiello, an artificial intelligence forecaster, researcher, and writer, known for his work in long-term AI governance and existential risk. A former governance researcher at OpenAI, he has become a prominent voice in debates on artificial general intelligence, or AGI, safety, whistleblower protections, and corporate accountability in frontier AI development. At OpenAI, he was a governance researcher from 2022 to 2024. When he resigned, he left OpenAI after refusing a non-disparagement clause. He was named Time's 100 Most Influential People in AI in 2024 and 2025. He's a co-author of AI 2027, signatory of Right to Warn, open letter on AI risk, in his public advocacy. He joined OpenAI in 2022 to work on AI governance and model deployment oversight. His research focused on forecasting when AI systems might achieve human-level or superhuman performance, and on the institutional safeguards required to mitigate resulting risks. In 2024, he resigned, publicly citing concerns about transparency and the suppression of internal criticism through restrictive agreements. His decision amplified calls for stronger whistleblower protections in the AI sector. His influence in AI forecasting and thought leadership. He has become a prominent voice in publishing forecasts on AI progress and global implications. His essay, AI 2027, outlines detailed scenarios in which self-improving AI systems could transform or imperil civilization within a few years. The analysis, while speculative, is rooted in his modeling of capability scaling trends and institutional dynamics. The piece drew significant attention from policymakers and industry leaders, including members of the US government and executives at major AI labs. His public commentary emphasizes both urgency and caution. He argues that humanity is racing towards superintelligence without sufficient safety guarantees and urges a culture of open criticism within AI companies. His advocacy for independent oversight and technical interpretability research has made him a central figure in the global conversation about responsible AGI development. Recent activities. As of 2025, he maintains an active online presence through his website, ai-2027.com, and social media, where he engages with leading AI safety researchers and public intellectuals. His forecasts and essays continue to inform both policy debates and public understanding of AI's transformative and potentially existential trajectory. Scott Alexander. Scott Alexander is an American psychiatrist, blogger, and writer best known for his long-form essays on science, rationality, and society. He became a central figure in the rationalist and effective altruism communities through his blogs Slate Star Codex and Astral Codex 10. Slate Star Codex was from 2013 to 2020, Astral Codex 10 2021 to present. Scott Alexander trained and licensed as a psychiatrist in the San Francisco Bay Area, combining clinical insights with philosophical inquiry. He began contributing to the rationalist forum Less Wrong under the pseudonym Uvain before launching Slate Star Codex in 2013. The blog gained a large interdisciplinary readership for empirically grounded essays that blended social science, ethics, and futurism. In 2020, he briefly removed the site following the New York Times decision to publish his full name. It later reappeared with commenting disabled. Alexander's writing and influence. His essays such as The Anti-Reactionary Frequently Asked Questions, I Can Tolerate Anything Except the Outgroup, and Meditations on Moloch are widely cited in online intellectual circles. His collected works appear in volumes like The Library of Scott Alexandria. Themes include Bayesian reasoning, moral trade-offs, effective altruism, and responsible development of artificial intelligence, legacy and significance. Alexander's distinctive blend of analytic rigor and moral curiosity helped shape online rationalist discourse. His writing influences thinkers across psychology, philosophy, and technology policy, making him a key interpreter of 21st century intellectual culture. Thomas Larson. Thomas Larson is the founder and executive director of the Center for AI Policy, CAIP. This is a research and advocacy organization focused on artificial intelligence governance and safety. He's recognized for his work at the intersection of AI safety, research, and policy, seeking to bridge the gap between technical advances and public governance frameworks. Larson established the Center for AI Policy to provide research-driven insights in how governments and institutions can manage the societal and existential risks of increasingly capable AI systems. The organization produces policy recommendations, organizes expert consultations, and engages with legislative bodies to inform evidence-based AI oversight. His research is focused on strategies for aligning artificial intelligence development with human values and safety priorities, including studying global coordination on AI safety standards, potential economic and security implications of advanced AI, and governance mechanisms that reduce race to the bottom incentives among technology developers. Larson's contributed to the growing AI safety policy ecosystem, connecting academic researchers, think tanks, decision makers. His efforts have helped shape dialogues about balancing AI innovation with precautionary regulation, particularly around frontier models and existential risk preparedness. Eli Lifland. Eli Lifland is an American forecaster and AI safety researcher, known for his top ranking on the Rand Forecasting Initiative leaderboard and leadership in the forecasting community. He co-founded the nonprofit AI Futures Project, which produces detailed scenario analysis of artificial intelligence development, including the widely discussed AI 2027 report. Lifland's career centers on improving long-range decision-making through quantitative and judgmental forecasting. As co-lead of Sametsveti, a forecasting group that won multiple CSET Foretell Infer tournaments,
He helped refine probabilistic modeling of global risks and AGI timelines. His personal Breer scores and track record place him among the highest performing forecasters, publicly ranked. AI Futures Project in AI 2027. Liflin co-founded the AI Futures Project in 2024. The nonprofit's flagship work, AI 2027, represents scenario-based forecasts of rapid AI capability growth, examining political, economic, and safety consequences. The project's quantitative timelines model, combining compute trends, algorithmic progress, and expert judgment, has influenced the discussion in policy and forecasting circles. Though some analysts argue its assumptions are overly aggressive, Liflin has acknowledged these critiques and published model revisions that extend predicted automation timelines. He co-created Text Attack, a framework for adversarial testing in NLP, while at Aut. Liflin also co-founded Sage, which builds interactive AI explainers and forecasting tools, and advises the Long-Term Future Fund. As a mentor in the MATS program, he supports researchers exploring AI governance and strategic forecasting, philosophy and influence. An advocate of effective altruism, Liflin has taken the Giving What We Can pledge and focuses his career on improving outcomes from superhuman AI systems. His work bridges technical modeling, epistemic rigor, and public communication, shaping contemporary debates on how humanity should prepare for transformative AI. Romeo Dean. Romeo Dean is a computer science and artificial intelligence policy researcher affiliated with Harvard University. His work explores the intersection of AI governance, ethics, and emerging technologies, focusing on how technical design and policy frameworks can align to ensure responsible AI deployment. Dean is recognized with academic policy circles for bridging technical innovation and public interest regulation. Dean's research connects computer science methods like algorithmic transparency and interpretability with public policy approaches that address the societal risks of AI systems. At Harvard, he collaborates with interdisciplinary teams spanning computer science, philosophy, and public policy to shape frameworks for trustworthy and auditable AI. His contributions. Dean has been involved in drafting or advising on proposals that influence academic and governmental perspectives on AI regulation. His work contributes to policy discussions on data privacy, algorithmic accountability, and the ethical use of machine learning. His policy insights are aimed at harmonizing innovation incentives with safeguards for public welfare. Dean's influence and recognition. Through his publications and conference participation, Dean is emerging as a voice in shaping the ethical foundations of AI governance. He's part of a new generation of scholars, advocating for collaborative, cross-sectoral approaches to mitigate AI risks while fostering equitable technological progress. The Threshold File 002. The people building AI are saying this out loud. Imagine hearing a soft analog hiss. A distant electrical hum. clock ticking somewhere in darkness. There's a strange moment that happens before history changes. A moment where the people closest to the machinery begin speaking differently, before the rest of society understands why. And that may be where we are now, because the most unsettling part of the AI conversation today isn't coming from anonymous internet speculation. It's coming from the people building the systems themselves. The CEOs of OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Anthropic have all publicly suggested, in different ways, that artificial general intelligence may arrive within years, not decades. Years. Read that carefully. Take that in. Because only a short time ago, most people still associated artificial intelligence with autocomplete, chatbots, image generators, and especially novelty. Now the language has changed. Now the conversation increasingly revolves around superintelligence, recursive self-improvement, autonomous agents, and civilization scale transformation. And in the middle of that growing conversation, a forecasting scenario called AI 2027. Not sci-fi writers. Forecasters, researchers, governance analysts, AI policy thinkers. It's the people unusually close to the institutions shaping the frontier of artificial intelligence itself. I want you to picture old CRT monitors flickering off in the darkness. Now imagine OpenAI headlines, data center corridors, government hearing rooms, server farms glowing like industrial cathedrals. What makes AI 2027 different? It's not certainty, it's not specificity. Because most conversations about AI remain intentionally vague. AI will change the world. AI will disrupt industries. AI may become dangerous someday. AI 2027 attempts something much riskier. It attempts to describe the progression concretely, year by year, capability by capability, institution by institution. And according to the authors themselves, their goal wasn't persuasion. Their goal was predictive accuracy. That distinction matters enormously because they openly admit uncertainty. They even wrote 2 separate endings. One a slowdown ending, the other a race ending, meaning the future's not predetermined, only pressured. Maybe that's the real reason the document spread so quickly, not because everyone agreed with it, but because the people reading it increasingly recognized something uncomfortable about it. The pace of AI progress had already started changing the emotional texture of reality itself. The conversation no longer sounded theoretical. It sounded immediate. And when the people closest to the systems begin speaking this way, history usually pays a little more attention. Eventually. Threshold file 003. The pace of the thing. Human beings are extraordinarily bad at understanding exponential change, especially while living inside it. That may be the single most important idea underneath AI 2027. Because the document isn't merely forecasting smarter AI systems. It's forecasting accelerating systems. Systems improving the systems that improve themselves. And once that cycle begins, the pace changes, not gradually, violently. The pace of the thing, most people intuitively think in straight lines, linear lines. Next year feels roughly like this year. Technology advances slowly. Society adapts slowly. Institutions react slowly. But computation doesn't always move that way, and intelligence itself may not move that way either, as we're finding out. That's why the structure of AI 2027 feels psychologically strange. 2025 feels plausible, and it is. Agents stumble. Systems hallucinate. Companies experiment. Governments hesitate. That already feels eerily familiar. Then arrives 2026. The systems improve. Research accelerates. Economic incentives intensify. Governments begin centralizing compute. Automation expands quietly through technical industries, and then suddenly, the conversation stops feeling hypothetical. Then the timeline compresses further. Recursive AI research begins. Systems assisting in the creation of smarter systems. Human oversight struggling to keep pace with machine iteration cycles. And by late 2027, the document begins describing realities that many people reject emotionally before they even analyze them logically. Not necessarily because they're impossible, but because human intuition was never designed to emotionally process exponential intelligence growth in real time. I want you to visualize the compression of time. The news headlines accelerating. The data centers expand as they allow code to start rewriting itself. There's an old saying in technology: people overestimate change in the short term and underestimate it in the long term. But AI may distort even that pattern, because artificial intelligence isn't merely another technology. It may become the thing inventing technologies. And once intelligence itself becomes scalable infrastructure, the historical pace of civilization may begin changing with it. That possibility is the pressure sitting underneath every page of AI 2027. Imagine when intelligence becomes infrastructure. And maybe the strangest part is that while all of this sounds increasingly surreal, pieces of it are already visible, which means the threshold may not be ahead of us anymore. It may be underneath us already. I want you to imagine soft thunder in the distance, rain against your window, as you sit close next to late night AM radio, and something takes hold of the transmission. It's the threshold file 004. Why try to predict something this big? There's an uncomfortable truth buried inside every civilization. Human beings rarely prepare emotionally for transformations before they arrive, especially unprecedented ones. And that's why projects like AI 2027 exist. Not because the future is certain, but because uncertainty becomes more dangerous when nobody examines it carefully. So why try to predict something this big? Because the authors of AI 2027 openly admit they're attempting something almost impossible. On the website itself, they compare forecasting superhuman AI to forecasting World War III. Although this author might think both could be predicted to some extent. But predicting this is potentially much harder because there's almost no historical precedence for what happens when intelligence itself becomes scalable. No civilization's ever experienced this before. No institution truly knows how to model it. No government fully understands the incentives forming around it. And yet, the systems continue advancing anyway. Imagine war room projections, Cold War archives, satellite imagery, data center cooling towers at night, stacks upon stacks of forecasting documents. Military planners simulate wars they hope never happen. Governments model pandemics before outbreaks occur. Financial institutions stress test collapse scenarios constantly, not because they believe the future is guaranteed, but because preparation matters, orientation matters. Maybe that's the real function of AI 2027, not certainty. No, not certainty. Orientation. A way of forcing serious people to confront possibilities that still sound emotionally fictional to the broader public. The value's not certainty. The value's orientation. The AI 2027 authors themselves understand the risks of making concrete predictions publicly because concrete forecasts fail. They can be measured later, judged later, proven wrong later. That's why specificity matters. And it's also why the document attracted so much attention. Because whether people agree with the timelines or not, AI 2027 attempts something increasingly rare in modern technological discourse. It sticks its neck out and risks being wrong publicly. Now I want you to imagine forecasting graphs, prediction markets, handwritten notes. Old tape reels spin slowly, static, across darkened monitors. Maybe that's the deeper reason this investigation of AI 2027 exists. Not preaching certainty, not convincing you the future is fixed, but to examine what happens when technological acceleration, economic incentives, institutional power, human psychology, and machine intelligence begin colliding at planetary scale. Because history has a strange habit. It often feels impossible right before it becomes obvious. And then the threshold continues.
This has been AI 2027, the investigation, the Threshold Files. Written, produced, and narrated by Michael David Angel, with additional editing and annotations by the antagonist. Inspired by the paper AI 2027, originally published April 3rd, 2025 on AI-2027.com by visionaries Daniel Cocatello, Scott Alexander, Thomas Larson, Eli Lifland, and Romeo Dean.